Imagine waking up on a random Tuesday morning. Your eyes blink open, and the first thing you do, like many of us, while savoring that first cup of coffee, is check your investment accounts. You see something that makes your heart race. Yesterday, while you slaved away at work, your portfolio racked up $412 in gains. You do some quick math. After taxes, your take-home for that day was about $320. Wait, your money just outperformed you. Suddenly, the reality sinks in. You could technically take a day off and your investments would still generate income, albeit not enough to live on just yet, but the gap is closing. Sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. And the craziest part is most people will hustle for 40 years without even catching a glimpse of this moment. They clock in, trade their time for dollars, and hope that at 65, Social Security will have their backs. But you could break this cycle. Let's talk about the crossover point, a magical intersection where your investments start to outperform your income. Here's the scoop. Most folks don't realize that this moment isn't just a dream. It's a tangible goal, a mathematical inevitability. It shifts how you see every dollar earned and every dollar spent. My name's Bobby, and I've spent way too much time thinking about these invisible milestones that guide us from financial struggle to freedom. And if you've ever felt like you're sprinting on a treadmill that won't slow down, or if you're obsessed with achieving freedom but find yourself lost in a sea of vague advice, then this is for you. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this resonates, because we're diving deep into a specific date on the calendar, the day you can officially declare victory in this capitalist game. So what makes the crossover point so powerful? It's not some woo-woo mindset trick or a vague concept of financial freedom. It's a clear, calculable moment you will reach if you adhere to certain principles consistently over time. This concept was introduced in the book Your Money or Your Life Asterisk by Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez back in 1992, and it might just be one of the most underdiscussed ideas in personal finance. Let me break it down for you. In your financial life, you're juggling two lines, your expenses and your investment income. Your expense line is what it costs to just live each month: rent, groceries, transportation, insurance, entertainment. For many American households, that number hovers around $5,000 to $6,000 monthly, but it varies based on where you live and how you live. Then there's your investment income line, which starts flat, often at zero. Maybe you've got a few thousand tucked away in a savings account, earning a measly 3% and generating a whopping $10 a month. That's basically no movement at all. But here's the kicker. As you consistently invest over time, that second line starts to bend upward, often imperceptibly at first. Compound interest works like magic, not linearly but exponentially, growing curvier and curvier, faster and faster, especially the longer you stick around. The crossover point, it's when your investments finally exceed your living expenses, when your portfolio generates enough that whether you clock in or hit snooze on your alarm, you're still earning. Here's a fun reality check. If your monthly expenses are $4,000, which is $48,000 annually, at a reasonable 4% safe withdrawal rate, you'd need around $1.2 million socked away to make that work. That's the magic number, the crossover point. Now I know what you might be thinking, Bobby, $1.2 million, that's light years away. But let's rain on that parade for a second and look at the math, because you might be surprised. Imagine you're 30 years old, making $60,000 a year. You're investing $500 a month with an average return of 8%. After 10 years, you'll have about $91,000. Your annual investment income, a pitiful $3,600 or $300 a month. That's not even scratching the surface of your $4,000 monthly expenses. But keep going. Fast forward 20 years, you're 50, with around $275,000 in investments. You'd be pulling in about $11,000 a year or $900 a month. Not quite there, but the gap is closing. Then, at age 55, you'll see $430,000, with investment income jumping to $17,000 a year. That's $1,400 a month. And the curve, it's starting to steepen significantly. When you hit age 60, boom, you're sitting on $670,000, nearly $27,000 annually. Now you're more than halfway to your crossover point. You're generating over $2,000 passively. But if you're thinking it's just about waiting it out for 35 years to retire comfortably at age 65, hold up. That's the slow lane. Here's where the magic happens. You can manipulate your crossover point. Yes, you heard correctly. What if you reduced your monthly expenses from $4,000 down to $3,000? Your crossover number drops to $900,000. That's $300K less you need to save. And let's be real, when you lower expenses, you usually end up with extra cash to invest. So instead of the previous $500 a month, what if you invested $1,000? When you run those numbers at 8% for 25 years, you'll reach $860,000. Now, paired with the reduced expense target, your crossover point shifts to age 55 instead of 65. Boom. You just gave yourself an extra 10 years of freedom by spending less and investing more. Want to get even more radical about it? What if you house hacked and cut out that gigantic housing payment? What if you moved to a cheaper area? What if you squeezed your expenses down to $2,000? Now you're looking at a crossover number of $600,000. At $1,000 invested a month, you could hit that in about 18 years. You could achieve financial independence in your late 40s or even earlier as your income grows. Listen up. This crossover point is not just a fantasy reserved for the tech millionaires. It's a mathematical certainty. You can significantly accelerate it by tackling expenses and increasing investment. But wait, it's not just about numbers. There's a mental shift that happens as you approach and surpass the crossover point. In the beginning, every dollar you invest feels like torture. You're sacrificing that cash for some fuzzy future together with your dreams. It can genuinely suck. But as your portfolio grows, you hit a psychological threshold, often between $50,000 and $100,000. Your investments start to feel real. Suddenly, a 2% gain isn't small change. It's $1,000 or more. Your money is active. This shift transforms your relationship with work even before you hit that crossover point. It's what I call the freedom gradient. Financial independence isn't just black or white. It's more like stepping stones. As your investment income rises, you gain more freedom. When you hit $500 a month, that's your car payment covered. $1,000 a month, that's groceries and your car payment. At $2,000, some, if not all, your non-housing expenses are taken care of. You don't need to wait until the lines fully cross to savor the benefits. There's this concept in the FIRE community called Coast FIRE. Imagine you're 30, aiming for $1.2 million by age 60. At an 8% return, you'd need about $150,000 invested today to coast there without dropping another dime. If you hit Coast FIRE, you could pivot to a fulfilling, lower-paying job, work part-time, or enjoy experiences instead of aggressively investing. Now, let's be clear. I'm not necessarily endorsing this strategy because continuing to invest accelerates your financial independence. But knowing you're at Coast FIRE opens up a world of options long before you actually reach that magical crossover. A survey from Empower in 2022 showed that 57% of Americans believe they'll never retire comfortably. Spoiler alert, most of these folks haven't even calculated their crossover point. They've never seen that specific figure they're aiming for, nor recognized that they can take concrete actions to reach it faster. They're stuck fretting about a foggy future, a recipe for paralysis. Let's address the elephant in the room. What about market volatility? What if the stock market crashes? What if inflation skyrockets? These are valid concerns. The truth, the road to that crossover point won't be straight. Market downturns can knock your portfolio down 20%, 30%, even 40% sometimes. We see a bear market every 4 years on average, with a typical drop of about 33%. But remember, this isn't a reason to panic. You're not withdrawing cash when the going gets tough. You keep buying during downturns. This approach actually accelerates your pathway to that crossover point despite temporary setbacks. As you dollar-cost average through bear markets, you harness one of the most powerful wealth-building tools at your disposal. So how about inflation? The 4% withdrawal rate we're using already accounts for it. The original Trinity study that established this rate did so through historical periods of high inflation, and guess what? The 4% rule has held strong even through turbulent times. Stocks have historically been a reliable defense against inflation since companies tend to raise their prices, which trickles down into their earnings. There's risk, of course. Sure, the future is uncertain, but let's get real. The alternative, never investing and relying solely on trading your time for money until you can't anymore, that's a far bigger gamble. You're just shifting your risk. The crossover point strategy is a mathematical plan that has worked for anyone who executes it consistently. Now here's what you need to do with this information. Understanding the crossover point is pointless if it doesn't spur you into action. Start by calculating your current monthly expenses, not what you think, but what they are. Check 3 months of bank statements. You might find you spend 15 to 20% more than you thought. Next, multiply your monthly expenses by 12 for your annual expenses. Then multiply that number by 25. Voila, that's your crossover number at a 4% withdrawal rate. Write it down. It's the portfolio size that would make work optional for you. Now check your current investment balance and subtract that from your crossover number. That's your gap, the distance between where you are and financial independence. Use online calculators or compound interest formulas to see how many years until you close that gap based on your investing habits. Finally, ask yourself, how can you speed up this process? Can you boost your income with a job change or side hustle? Could you cut your expenses by house hacking or relocating? What if you stowed windfalls like tax refunds instead of splurging? Think about every dollar you invest as $40 a year in passive income for life. And every $100 you cut from monthly expenses is $30,000 less you need to reach crossover. Here's a reframe that has changed my life. Every purchase has 2 costs, the money spent and the crossover time sacrificed. If you buy that $30,000 car instead of a $15,000 one, you're not just dishing out an extra $15,000. You're delaying your crossover point years into the future. I'm not saying you should forego spending on what you love, but understand the trade-off. Money isn't just cash, it's future time. It's those months you'll spend working when you could have been free. The crossover point makes this trade-off visible, and once you see it, you won't unsee it. Every financial decision becomes a question. Are you moving toward the crossover or away from it? Are you buying freedom or selling it? Think about this. The average American will earn around $2 million over their working life and often end up reliant on Social Security, which pays about $1,800 a month. They'll work 45 years and have almost nothing to show for it because every dollar spent went right back out. The crossover point offers a different narrative, not an easy one, but a clear path. Save hard, invest wisely, cut expenses cleverly, and trust the math. The lines will cross. They always do for those who stick with it. And when they cross, you'll wake up one Tuesday, check your accounts, and realize your money is finally working harder than you are. That's when everything flips. I've obsessed over this stuff so you don't have to. If this video shifted your perspective on finances, smash that like button and subscribe for more insights that challenge the way you think about money. Until next time.